Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to whoever's watching this. This again is Daniel Incandela, welcoming you to another series on leadership. And I have the honor of sitting here virtually with Butler Raines. Butler, hello.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Um, thanks for joining me. I'm really excited to get into this conversation. Before we do that, maybe you could introduce yourself, and we'll do it two ways. How do you introduce yourself professionally? And then how would you introduce yourself to a friend?
Okay, all right, interesting. Professionally, Butler Raines, I'm the head of product and engineering at Ambition. We're a sales technology, sales coaching company. Many of your listeners might know me as the head of product, former head of product at SalesLoft, where I was part of that organization for the prior 5 years. Just a product guy and a software guy, and love what I do. My friends that probably don't think of me that way. You just say, hey, I'm Butler. I'm small Georgia boy from rural Georgia and love Star Wars and elves and going to Dragon Con. So, how you marry and merge those two personas, I'm not quite sure how to pull it off, but I do.
I love it. That's why we're friends already, I think. One of my favorite movies is the classic Step Brothers. There's a line where they say, "Did we just become best friends?" And so we got connected through High Alpha.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They do like a matchmaking series on connecting people in the industry. And so you and I have only met once.
Right.
But for me, it was probably one of the most memorable experiences I've had in some time and connecting with another human. So thank you. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I feel the same way. I remember trying to schedule that. I was just telling Bree, my girlfriend, yesterday. I remember trying to schedule that, and we're both pretty busy. So it was like, that's that thing I want to do it, but it's not the most important thing today. And
Totally.
then like in 5 minutes, it was like, who are you? Why haven't we met before?
Yeah, what took so long? Yeah, I love it. All right, let's get into the meat here. So, good intros. Maybe pick 3 to 5 adjectives, please, to describe yourself.
Yeah, sober, and I think we'll probably talk a lot about what that means.
I hope so. Yeah.
Conversation. Empathetic. Probably one of my stronger attributes. Nerdy, geeky, whatever, however you want to angle that or define that. Perseverant. Just have a tenacity about projects I tackle or things I want to change about my life that I just keep at. And then, but overall, the adjective I pick is grateful. I feel very fortunate to be sober. I feel very fortunate to be where I am in life. I try to approach every day that way.
Okay, let's expand on gratitude a little bit. I know when I'm in a bit of a funk or need to level, I'll practice gratitude in some form, and it's instant relief for me. I'm wondering, how did you come to appreciate gratitude? How do you practice it? And so on.
Yeah, I didn't always feel that way. I mean, I'll just go ahead and say this now. Most people who know me will know this, and we'll talk about it a lot. Like, I'm an addict in recovery. So I spent damn near 30 years blaming the world for all of my troubles and everyone else. And through getting sober and maintaining my sobriety, I see the world differently. And I don't really have like a gratitude practice. I don't get up and write 3 things I'm grateful for. I just try to have a mindset of, and I learned this from Sean Murray. He's a CRO at Greenhouse now, and he was at SalesLoft with me for a time on the leadership team. He often talked in terms of like things he gets to do instead of has to do. And like, I get to run a great product team. I get to do this great interview. I get to get up and do the things that keep me healthy. And I try to cultivate that attitude. But I think in getting sober, once you get through, I mean, it can be hard every day, but once you get through the first few months and you get a few years under you, it's just like, wow, like these are extra years on my life. I should be dead.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I just feel like every day is a bonus day that I get to live. And that's how I frame it up.
I love it. Well, let's just jump more into sobriety, right?
Yeah,
Let's just jump in. And so we're both sober. We work in industries where that's a little harder to do, especially with events and dinners and so on and so forth. So what was it like navigating that initially when you realized you were trying to focus on your health?
Yeah, that was one of the toughest parts. And you may have experienced this, but when you get sober, you'll cling on to every reason why you shouldn't get sober. But the work environment is a tough one. I mean, think about it. It is more accepted to go into work and talk about how hammered you got the night before and how hungover you are and how hard it's going to work than it is to say, hey, y'all, quit drinking or quit eggs. It's just difficult. I don't think I could have done it or would have done it had I not been in a supportive culture like Sales Loft. The leadership team, the founders were uber supportive. I was more scared to tell them than they were receiving the news and supporting me. It helped me to be in such a great supportive environment. But I remember leading up to it, we had Rainmaker, we called it the conference Rainmaker at this point in time, and it was coming up in a few months. I got sober on January 1st, very cliche. We could unpack that one day. That's kind of like, I'll start Sunday, I'll start Monday, I'll start on the 1st, but I did it. And I remember Rainmaker usually is in March, and I was so scared to tell my boss. I was like, I have to meet with these people. I had bonded with a few sales leaders who have become friends. Ralph Barcy comes to mind. I was so looking forward to like talking to him about new whiskeys I was trying. And I was so scared because I was like, what will people accept me? Like, will the industry accept me? Software sales or whatever you want to think about it. And it was all in my head, you know, as soon as I let people know, and I was able to admit, be very vulnerable and say, I have a problem and I need to do this for myself. People are like, oh my God, we will support you in any and every way. But it was so scary.
Yeah, and how brave. You know, I remember when I started, you were talking about going to your exec team and sharing that news. I remember just being concerned that if I was in an event and not drinking, what I would say, you know, like just how would I answer that question? And that would give me a ton of anxiety. Can't imagine what you're going through when you realized you were going to tell, you know, an executive team that you needed help.
Well, I think there's some things that came up there for me when you said that. Like, I think there's some similarities. What I did maybe differently, others may have done it. I was very public about I had a problem.
Yep.
So me telling someone else is like, I had already put it out there. You can actually go look back at old social media posts. I was very clear. I got a problem. I'm stopping drinking. So I nixed that right out of the gate. Like, I gave myself permission just to tell people, like, I'm an addict. I have a problem. I'm taking ownership and I'm stopping.
Yeah. So how long has it been for you now?
Coming up on 6 years.
6 years.
I'm still a baby. I'm still a baby in the sober world. So
it's amazing though. And you started on Jan 1st and you kept that resolution.
That's right. If you can find it online. Another thing I did to hold myself accountable was I wrote publicly every 10 days, like a check-in.
Yep.
Public accountability. At first, I didn't know that I could make it past 90 days. And so I framed it as, I'm taking a 90-day break.
Yep. Yep.
But I knew in my mind and my heart that it needed to be forever.
Well, let's keep going. Since you and I have talked a little bit before, here's where I think we should go, and then you choose your own adventure right now.
Right.
So I know that let's keep talking about sobriety, because I love that you're so open about it. I have tried to be more open about it, and I think we both agree we're doing that in order to help others that may be
Yes.
lost or confused or scared. And so I think whoever's watching this, we are here to help.
Yep.
But I know, Butler, you have used writing as a way of processing and holding yourself accountable. I know that yoga has played a tremendous role in your life. We need to talk about the bitter southerner at some point. And then I just want to talk about this concept of sober leadership a little more. So I just mentioned 4 very big things in your life. So feel free to start on any of those 4.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I'll start with writing because we were just talking about it. Nice segue, and it bubbled up for me. Writing is a really important part of my story, especially about in regards to getting sober. And it's important because not only was I not a good writer, and maybe still not a great writer, but it was something I was afraid of. I'm much more science, math minded. And at the tail end of when I was drinking and needing to stop, I had really lost a lot of my vocabulary and ability to communicate effectively. Like I would get stuck in sentences, not be able to finish them, not be able to find words, not be able to articulate words. So I knew effectively I was destroying my brain. And so part of the writing exercise was public accountability. Another part of it was me effectively rebuilding my mind. That was my hypothesis. I'd started reading The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. I thought it was a nice short analysis of philosophy. And so I don't know if you can see behind me, a lot of these books I would read, made a habit of reading, and I'd pick a quote that would resonate with me. I would post it, I would write about it. And edited it. It really helped, in my mind, rebuild a lot of the cognitive function I thought I had lost through drinking and drug use. And I found it to be really effective. That segues nicely into yoga. So there's really 2 stages of my sobriety. I quit using drugs, probably 8 years ago, 9 years ago now. I remember when I walked into the gentleman who became a therapist, Philip Flores' office, was like, I'm a cocaine addict. And me and that circle, only people who knows I'm living this lie, I'm living 2 different lives, and I'm about to fall apart. A few months after that, I started an Ashtanga yoga practice. I knew nothing about it. I was probably closing in on 250 pounds, unhealthy, body pain everywhere, go spend tens of thousands of dollars of like trying to figure out what was causing it. But I wouldn't stop drinking and doing drugs, but it had to be some other reason. And tried to find a beginner's yoga class. And so found Balance Yoga in Atlanta because they offered beginners classes. And little did I know I was entering the practice of Ashtanga yoga, which is a very physically demanding practice, but it really, if you're practicing yoga consistently over time and you're incorporating your breathing and concentration, it really begins to also change your mind. If you were to read the Yoga Sutras, it rarely talks about a physical practice, and it's more about how concentrating and can really change the patterns and pathways in your mind. And I think the combination of those 2 just strengthened this sober path I was on. And so, it led me years later to be like, I need to also stop drinking. What have I been doing? So I think both pieces were really important in my sustained sobriety.
Yep. And then Bitter Southerner.
Yeah.
So, if you don't mind, for anyone watching, listening, what is it? And then what's the story behind it?
Yeah. Well, Bitter Southerner is a web publication and brand e-commerce platform. Long form journalism about the South and things going in the South, both what's going on currently and especially and be reflective on our history. One of those projects I feel I'm just so grateful and fortunate to be a part of. When it was originally concepted, it was going to be basically a drinks blog, cocktail blog. You might can tell from the name, the Bitter Southerner, like it kind of has a play there. And my first software job happened to be in video ad revenue for like most of the major newspapers. And so I knew a lot about growing audiences and how to monetize audiences. And we were making some very high-end content. We were going to interview a lot of Atlanta bartenders and doing video, and the team, the other members of the team, the other founders are very creative people. And it just kind of dawned on us, like, this is a great project, but there's probably not a large enough audience to really make a run at it as a business. Fast forward a few months, kind of thinking about what it could be. We started thinking about how could we expand it outside of cocktails, but Southern culture.
Yep.
Also, so that's just kind of the summary of how we got started, but the why, right? Like, I think each founder probably has a similar and a different why. For me, I'm different. I'm a Southerner, tried and true. I grew up in a town of 500 people in rural Georgia, right? But I was so different from I'd say the stereotypical Southerner, at least the way the world might think about the stereotypical Southerner. I was very different from a lot of people I went to school with, and it's just kind of this idea of like, there's a lot of different things going on in the South and a lot of cool things going on in the South, and let's talk about them. Let's talk about the complexities of the South. I mean, I think we were being represented by Honey Boo Boo and Duck Dynasty and on TV, and it really resonated with people. And it's been a fascinating project to watch over the last, I guess, 8 years now. Is that crazy? Maybe it's 8 years. Through the work I do now, I'm not as involved in the business as I once was at the beginning, but it's great seeing it grow and win James Beard Awards, and occasionally the New York Times will talk about us. That's really neat.
Incredible. What do you think when you think about your life pre-sobriety and now where you are today? Like, what comes to mind?
Everything changed when I got sober for the better. That's the thing. I wish I could just, how can I say this, right? Like, if you can drink responsibly, or you can do any recreational activity responsibly, like, no problem, like, do you?
Totally, yeah.
But if you're somebody that's hurting and you're scared, I'm trying not to get emotional, I promise you, it's like everything will get better. Like, you can do it. No one's going to, and I can't say no one. The people who love you aren't going to judge you. They're going to support you. And I like data a lot. And if you were to chart the data of where I was for 20 years of my adult life to where I'm at now, like, you could see the steep, what we say in startup worlds is up and to the right, hockey stick,
totally
growth curve from the time I got sober to now. I mean, it's crazy.
I love it. And so how has that affected your leadership style?
Yeah, a lot, a ton. I would say pre-sobriety, I thought about things as in terms of, I want to be a manager. I want to be a VP. I want to be the guy on the stage. It was very ego driven.
Yep.
Without knowing any of the responsibilities of anything that came with that. in and through sobriety, things I've learned through sobriety, things I've learned through my writing and reading philosophy, things I've learned through my yoga practice and such. It's a greater sense of responsibility to be a leader. I feel responsible for growing and leading the people under my charge. I feel responsible for empowering them and letting them be fulfilled and what they're doing. I also approach them as human beings. I think the thing that sobriety taught me, teaches you, is like, we all have our own shit and baggage, and we're all kind of fucked up inside. And I approach another human. My therapist tells me all the time, he's like, every situation you experience is co-created. You and I are co-creating this. Like, you bring all the circumstances that led you to this point in time. I bring all my circumstances, experience, and what comes out, comes out. And sometimes it's messy, right? And I just try to approach every interaction that way. Like, we're all humans trying to do things together, and that's hard, right? And I think that lens helps me navigate being a leader.
I love it. A little bit of empathy can go a long way, especially in this world today. And we're gonna slowly wrap up here. What advice do you have for someone emerging in their career? And this can be just general career advice. It can be tied back to sobriety.
Yeah.
Some of your go-to stuff.
Yeah, if you go to things, let me see if I can come up with 3 for you. One, because I get this coaching a lot, like, my advice would be, don't seek titles and such out of ego and entitlement. Like, learn what the responsibilities are of the position of leadership you could envision yourself being, the gravity of that, and then go learn from other people who are doing it and begin to develop those skills, and you will grow into that. I tell people that all the time. Like, don't get so obsessed with titles and position and things like that. I know I know that it's quite resonate with people. I mean, I think we're a very career-driven world, but I feel like that's probably the best path. 2, harking back to what I just said, remember, in every interaction at work, especially, or networking, like, you're dealing with another human being, and they bring a lifetime of experiences with them. And I have this quote I love from a neuroscience textbook I got back there, of like, people identify so much with their thoughts and feelings, but they rarely question their origins. And it's like, if I had drank too much coffee this morning, I would have come into this frustrated. Something at work could have like stressed me out, and this like could have gone a totally different way. And it's just, you got to meet people where they are, and also have empathy for where they might be in the moment.
Yeah. And
then 3, this is more of maybe doesn't fit the motif of the talk, but it's one that's important to me. It's like, I try to, as a leader, separate decision quality from outcome quality, because outcome is so dependent on things external to you and to the company and to the team. Like, there's so many other factors. And so I try to coach people to like use frameworks and reasoning to make good decisions. And sometimes those things go not the way you expect, but that doesn't mean you didn't make a good decision. Right. And learning how to separate those two, I found to have a profound impact on my career, my growth.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that. Now that I don't drink, I've developed a pretty formidable sweet tooth.
Oh man, yes.
So I was wondering what, I know you've replaced drinking with yoga and writing, and I'm sure other things, but do you have any other vices you want to share?
I do. I'll share. Okay. Nerds candy. It's actually, I'm glad you asked this question. one of the things I do in my writing, I like to talk about, and I hope to get back to writing here again soon, is as I want to generate empathy for addicts. And I think most people, I mean, this again harks back to being from this small Georgia town, right? Like where addiction and stuff may be seen as sin. And if not sin, at least you believe the other person's making some kind of conscious choice to go do the drug or drink too much, right? You can just look at sugar in your everyday life and realize like it's a compulsory action, right? It's not a conscious decision.
Yeah.
And in those moments that, and we have them in sobriety, right? In those moments where it's like, I call it like, I wish I could just pour the amber wave of whiskey over me and just like, you know, it's like, I have found that I can go to CVS, grab a big box of Nerds and down them. I feel pretty great. So Nerds, and then for dessert, if anybody likes this and wants to send me a cake,
yep.
I love red velvet cake.
Okay.
Hands down.
That is good to know. I'll send you some in moderation.
Yeah, that's right. In moderation. So I'm not great with moderation.
Yeah, I'm not either. But most sober people aren't very good with moderation.
That's right.
Well, anything I should have asked you? I could talk about this for hours with you, so thank you. But I want to give you the last word before I stop recording this.
Man, I really enjoyed this. I could talk about my sober journey, my recovery path, especially anyone listening that feel they're curious or feel like they need help and maybe not ready to admit it or ready to admit it. Like, I'm no therapist, I'm no doctor. I can only share my experiences, but telling someone, talking to someone is a great next step. And I know, Daniel, you'd be open to it. I'm open to it.
Totally, yeah.
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm not hard to find on the internet. I hope and encourage you to do so.
Yeah. It's earlier when you were talking about the pressures you put on yourself when trying to make this decision. I mean, there certainly is pressure, but having come out of that myself as well, it's a lot of self-imposed pressure that
it is, yeah.
So if anyone is thinking about this, let that go. And your point about tracking data from pre-sober to now and it being, you know, up and to the right and, you know, a great experience. I can safely say I would not be where I am today if I had not stopped drinking. Like I am so grateful and thankful for everything that's happened since then. And I've reached a potential I didn't think was possible.
Absolutely.
And I think that can go for anyone that is considering doing this. You have no idea what is ahead of you in such a positive manner.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am so glad that we have met, that we are brothers. Thank you so much for your time, Butler. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you.